In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an adapter so that you can ignite 40 talons at the same time or up to 80 E-matches at the same time. So that would be 40 fireworks or 80 fireworks off only one cue. All right, let's get started. For the parts, you're going to need a step-up adapter. This takes 2 volts input and outputs more voltage, and we're going to be setting it to about 14.4 volts. And this little board is going to take the 3.3 volts that the FireFly puts out, step it up to 12 volts to power a 12 volt, 40 amp automotive relay. And we're going to be using the relay wiring harness to connect all of our stuff. We're going to be using Wago adapters. These are knockoff Wago adapters. And we're going to be using those to connect all the talons or E-matches to the relay. And then the power to ignite all this is going to come from a separate battery, like a car battery or a lithium polymer battery. No power is going to be drawn from the FireFly. And another beautiful thing about this setup is that you can put this relay and the battery and the igniters far, far away from the FireFly. Using, say, Cat5 cable, you can run it from the igniter that comes with the FireFly. These are the Titan igniters. So you can run it from the Titan, say 100 feet or 1,000 feet over just a pair of conductors out of a Cat5 cable, and you can run that to the step-up board, to the relay, to the battery, to the igniters. So you can have a very, very far away bank of fireworks. So you could do crisscross, you know, lots of effects. All right, enough explanation. Let's get started. What you have to do at the start is take your most unloved USB cable for some phone that you don't own anymore, and you're going to just cut the end off that used to plug in your phone. Okay, and then you're going to strip the wires back, and you should have 4 wires. You're looking for the black and the red wire. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip those, and you're just going to temporarily twist them onto VN plus is the red wire, and VN minus is the black wire. And then you're going to plug that USB cable into, say, like a cell phone charger or something, so that we can get 5 volts is what USB runs into this adapter. The reason why we're doing this is we have to turn this dial until this voltage reaches 14.4 volts. And just a warning, when these come out of the box, you have to turn this dial counterclockwise 700 rotations until it starts putting out more voltage than what's coming in. So if you put a multimeter on here and it says 5 volts, you have to turn this counterclockwise a ton of times until you see that start to go up 8 volts, 10 volts, that kind of stuff. And a lot of people think these are defective, but you just have to unscrew that just an insane amount. So I've already done it 700 times, so it should be around 10 volts. So let's go ahead and put our meter on DC volts, which it is. And we will test to see what we're getting out of this unit. So if we test, so we're getting a perfect 10 volts, but we want to be somewhere above 12, and I like 14.4. So if we turn that dial counterclockwise, we should see that number go up. Okay, so there's 11.4 volts, so we need to keep going. 12, 13, oh, we went a little too high, 15.5, so we'll try and get around 14.4. There we go. So 14.4 volts coming out, 5 volts coming in. Good to go. So next step is going to be to solder some wires to this. So we're going to remove the temporary USB ones, and we're going to solder our Cat5 cable. You know, that's whatever length you want between your bank of fireworks and the FireFly. So this cable can be, you know, 100 feet long or what have you. And we're going to solder one end of it to the VN and VN minus and plus. And polarity is important, so use the solid wire for positive and the white wire for negative. And you have to remember that when you connect the other end into the Titan, you have to make sure what polarity those two pads are. I know what they are, but we're going to test it, and you should test it too. And when you test it, mark them with a marker, which one's which, so that there's no mistakes. If you reverse the wires on here, it'll just blow this little chip. It has no reverse polarity protection, so make sure you get it right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use our multimeter to see what polarity those pads are. Now, what I recommend is if you've used this to fire a fuse, is that you clean the pads because they can get dirty. So take a Q-tip and give the pads a scrub, but be careful not to rub on the igniter wire because you can break it. So just give that a good scrub. There we go, squeaky clean. Okay, pads are clean. Now, what we want to do is we want to set up a manual firing Q1 and plug in the Titan to port 1 on the FireFly. And then we're going to put our multimeter on DC volts. And it doesn't matter red or black where they go, but we're going to watch that number to see if it's negative or positive when we go swipe to fire. We've got our multimeter touching the two clips that are in there. And right now you can see red is on the right, black is on the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a swipe to fire. And when this thing starts to heat up, you can see the voltage goes to about 3.5 volts. And there was no negative symbol in front of it. So that means we have it correct. Positive is on the right, negative is on the left. So I'm going to take my black marker and I'm going to mark the negative with a little minus sign. And that's it. So we always know this is negative and that's positive. Now, if we had had the clips the other way, oh boy, let's see if we can do this. Okay, and we'll do another swipe to fire. And if you watch, see now it's minus 3.5 volts. So you know the polarity is opposite to how you have your clips. So obviously it's not going to be positive this side, it's going to be positive that side. So that's how you can tell with just one quick fire what polarity it is. The next step is we're going to take our voltage booster with our either super long cable that's going to run back to the Titan, or in this case our short cable, and we're going to connect it into it to test it. So remember before we did solid as positive on here, so VN plus solid. So we're going to want to make sure that's on our positive connection in the Titan. So just going to put that in there. The negative on that side. Close our clip. Okay, so that's connected. Now we're going to take our multimeter again and we're going to connect the negative on V out minus and the positive on V out plus. Now if we do a manual fire, we should see 14.4 volts on the multimeter. So there you go, 14, pretty close, 14.3. No minus sign, so that's good. Everything looks like we've done it correctly. So the next step will be to connect the relay to this adapter board, and we also have to put a Schottky diode on there to stop back EMF from frying this device or damaging the FireFly, or if the FireFly detects a short circuit, it'll shut down for a moment, so we don't want that to happen. For the next part, we're going to solder our Schottky diode, and what you want to do is you want to bend the wires in that shape, and you want the gray band, which is the positive side, to be down. So bend the negative side around about that wide, and then slide it through the board. So remember, V out positive, so the silver band is the positive side, so we're going to slide that through the board, and then we're going to slide this through the board, so you've got it slid through like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bend up the positive side so that that diode is held in place. Okay, so just like that, and then we're going to bend up this side a little bit as well so that it's held in, and then we're going to solder our relay wires onto here next. So remember, the silver band goes to positive, and if you look at the board, V out positive, and that's the layout that you want to do. Okay, our diode pins are bent and pushed through. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some solder on those to hold them, and then we're going to get the relay socket, and then we're going to solder on the black wire and the white wire. But from this point forward, it doesn't matter what polarity they are, so it doesn't matter which wire goes where. Just the white wire and the black wire, and we're going to solder on those. Okay, solder is complete. Don't be afraid, get some on there because we're going to need some for the wire as well. Alright, now to put the harness wires on. Okay, we've got the relay soldered onto the back of the voltage board. So remember, it doesn't matter what order the wires go in, just the black and the white wire. Okay, now it's time for the big test. When we fire Q1, we should be able to hear this relay click. So let's give it a try. Did you hear that click? That is great news. So I'll hold it to the camera so we can hear it. Beautiful. If you get that clickety click, that means you've done everything right. So now in the second part of the video, we're going to talk about how to connect the blue and yellow wire to your battery pack and to the talons or E-matches, you know, through these things. Wow, stiff to move one of those up. Nice. Okay, so that will be part 2 of the video. It's going to be juicy.